So thanks ever so much for meeting with us today, Max. If you could just kick off with a quick introduction, a little bit about your background and what brought you to your role, your current role at Salesforce.
Of course, yeah. So Max Roberts, I'm Area Vice President for Enterprise Sales here at Salesforce UK. In terms of my background, I've spent 20 plus years now working in the technology sector, always in IT and technology, and done lots of different roles actually over those periods, from consulting right through delivery and sales and lots of exciting roles. I think you ask an interesting question about why I came to Salesforce. For me, there were some really clear reasons for that nearly 5 years ago now. I wanted to put myself at the front of the technology wave. I also wanted to work for a high growth company. There's lots of fun and opportunity in those types of organizations. And then underneath that, really, when I was looking at which organization was going to be most attractive to me, there were three pillars: the people, the product, and the culture of the organization. It's great to be working with fabulous people. We have an incredibly strong and innovative product stack, and the culture here is also incredibly strong, and it's been a big part of my work-life balance here.
So I appreciate that Salesforce has an extremely broad user base, but from your experience, is there a particular kind of organization that tends to impact the most from Salesforce?
So I'd like to just step back a little bit, if I may. So Salesforce is now 19 years old, and it was founded 19 years ago on the principles of having a new technology stack and a new business model. And actually, a new philanthropic model was really key to us at the time, and that business model was all about providing a software as a service platform, providing CRM as a service to our customers, and to support that we needed a very different technology model, and that technology model and business model has proved really powerful for us. So it means that we can sell to the very smallest customer, so a shop or a very small organization that's sitting down there just below us in the street, or the biggest bank use the same platform and the same technology. So we can service the whole breadth of businesses. In terms of who gets the most benefit, I don't think the answer to that is whether they're a large organization or a small organization. It's about whether they've got the ability to deploy and consume that, and the desire to move their business forward using the technology.
A common challenge, I think, for organisations, particularly those that maybe they're quite established, they have various kind of legacy challenges with data that might be all over the place, different systems, different pieces of software, etc. A common challenge, I think, for getting the most out of something like Salesforce can be how to overcome those kind of legacy issues. What would your advice be to organisations in that situation?
So I think sponsorship from the top of the organisation is always key, and continued sponsorship through the process is always means that the programs have far greater chances of success. I think one of our key strategies over the last 12-18 months has been focused around integration, actually. So if you look at what we've done over the past year, we acquired MuleSoft, one of the biggest cloud integration companies, and that was all about solving the problem that you've just spoken about there. We know that our customers have a myriad of systems which sometimes are very difficult to turn off. We have lots of silos of data all over an organization, and being able to subsume that, get that data into a platform where you can take that single view of the customer, start to use analytics and use artificial intelligence across the top of that to really get an insight into what your customer is doing and what they want to do, and have that personalized journey has been absolutely key for us. So making sure that you've got the integration, you've got the right data coming in is absolutely key as well.
You mentioned artificial intelligence a moment ago. I'm just curious to understand how you feel modern technology such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotic process automation, etc., how you feel these different forms of technology are impacting Salesforce?
Well, as we see it today, we're right in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution in those technologies. We've got IoT data, we've got a plethora of devices creating lots and lots of data out there. We've got consumers and customers now expecting to interact with companies and in a different way, and being able to subsume that data into a platform and make educated decisions to really personalize your service around that customer is absolutely key. So behind every one of those bits of data somewhere is a customer, and being able to make sense of that is absolutely key for us. If we look at how it's affected me as a sales leader in the business, I now forecast using artificial intelligence. So I'll make my own forecast, but I also have a score on an artificial intelligence score that's built up of all of the years of data that we've got about that customer, the performance of that type of opportunity, and we'll get a lead score. So I can have a very different and very objective, balanced look at the business as well as my own view. So we see the technologies coming into the Salesforce platform and evolving all of the time.
You mentioned earlier that your experience prior to Salesforce involved other aspects of the organisations you're working for, such as delivery. How important do you think that broader experience, those broader skill sets are in influencing you as a salesperson?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I've had a number of roles that I think contribute to what I do today. So the delivery is a key part of it. When you sit down with a customer and you can understand the cycles that their programs and projects are going to go through, you've seen perhaps some of the pitfalls and also the huge benefits. That's a very valuable conversation point. I also spent some time working in the Alliance Channels part of a technology business, which enables me to really think about how we build very strong relationships in the Salesforce ecosystem and how we focus them on the customer's success and make sure that we get the very best results for the customers. And those are big parts of my career which now I utilise every day.
What would you identify as the 3 most important characteristics in any great salesperson?
So when anybody's joining the organisation, I often get asked a similar question, and there's 3 things I think that make people successful here and right out of the blocks, which is embracing the technology. We have a fantastic technology stack here, and understanding and using that technology and being able to demonstrate how you use that technology. And that doesn't matter whether you're in sales or any other business function here. Being able to talk about that is absolutely key. Embracing the culture. We have a fabulous culture here, which I touched on earlier, but getting stuck into that can-do, innovative attitude is absolutely key. And then I talk about making an impact. So, get out, talk to the customers, spend time talking to customers about how they can use the technology to innovate and drive their business forward, and you'll get some wonderful results.
How would you describe the relationship between sales and marketing, and which of those 2 would you say typically should drive that relationship?
I see them as being 100% tightly linked. They are, one cannot exist without the other, but if you align those resources together, you get some great results. I think if you have one thing doing, if they're not in sync, then you can start to get problems. So making sure that we have very clear measurable outcomes and a very clear plan for the year that we're all focused on is absolutely key. It's a huge part of what we do and how we go to market here at Salesforce, having that ability to plan the campaigns, plan those big events that we have, the World Tour here in London and Dreamforce over in San Francisco, and make sure that we have the right customers there and the right events around that. It's been absolutely key for us.
Nowadays, there's such a big emphasis on online marketing that I think a lot of organisations are maybe moving away slightly from certain other forms of more traditional marketing, such as events. How important would you say events were to Salesforce?
So in terms of events, I think, from our perspective, we had our Dreamforce event in San Francisco in September, and we had over 170,000 customers and partners at that event. It's incredible, actually, and pulling together the ecosystem and allowing the customers, the partners, but particularly customers talking to other customers. That's a huge part of what we do. So just sort of 3,000 of the sessions that we ran at that event, customers talking in about how they've implemented and how they run Salesforce. So pulling people together in that kind of environment has tremendous value. And we saw the same thing just behind me in Docklands in May as well at World Tour.
There are, of course, lots of different sales philosophies and methodologies. Are there any in particular that you subscribe to or that you encourage your team to learn and to embody themselves?
Yeah, I think, as you would expect, so we have a fairly focused sort of rigor and cadence around the business here at Salesforce. So, over the years, I've used probably 5 or 6 of those different methodologies, and I think a big part of what we do here is have is how we get together once a year. The management team get together for kickoff, and then we review at half year what we call our V2 MOM, which is, on the face of it, a very simple document, but it's our vision, our values, our methods, and our measures. And we set out at the beginning of every year with a very clear set of visions for the year, 6, 7, maybe a few more, and we critique that as a team, and then that plan, that V2 MOM, is then cascaded down, and everybody in the organisation has their plan for their bit of the business, no matter how large or small, and they're all done and written within 6 weeks at the beginning of the fiscal year. So it's a very agile way, a very simple way of making sure that we test, what the priorities are for the business over the next year, and we can just focus and align everybody in the business behind those key vision statements.
Nowadays, with digital analytics, there's so many different metrics that an organisation can look at from a sales and marketing perspective. What's your attitude to that? Do you dig around in huge quantities of data, or do you tend to try and focus on just a small number of real kind of headline key metrics on a more frequent basis?
I think the latter is absolutely the way we focus here. So, as a business, we focus on certain wheels and make sure that we keep those turning in the business week in, week out. And one of the key ones is always going to be around pipeline generation and making sure that they do that. Now, on the face of it, that's a very simple KPI. How much pipeline have you created in a week? But actually, what we have is, a very simple but very clear dashboard, analytics dashboard, which gives me the key bits of information that I need to know. So there's one thing is, of course, the rate of that you're producing pipeline, but then also you need to look very carefully at how that pipeline is progressing along the stages. But also, you need to look at the makeup of that pipeline, which products are in that, but also how was that pipeline created, because the way and how the pipeline was created can often have a big impact on the conversion rate. So you need to make sure that you have a balance. So there's a number of key indicators in there that I always look at, and I look at that weekly. So at the beginning of the week, we set the priorities for the week, and we'll have a look how we're just trending on those things. So I like to make sure that everybody keeps, the machines turning within the business every single week.
How important, in your opinion, is it for salespeople to really buy into the culture and the vision of the organisation that they represent?
Very. Salesforce is in the business of doing good, if you like, and a huge part of my 4 or 5 years, in fact, probably the things I'm most proud of since I've come here, have come out of the work we do with our foundation. So when the company was founded, we had a philanthropic model. So we call it 1-1-1, 1% of our time, 1% of our profit, and 1% of our equity or our product goes into not-for-profits. And that's been huge for us over the last few years. So each and every employee in the UK gets 7 days to volunteer at Salesforce's expense, and we have a huge infrastructure to help people do things. And you can do that wherever you want. You can do it in your local community, but we also do a huge amount of activities around our hubs, these buildings here. Usually you'll see a school or something passing through during the course of a day. So building a culture that also gives back and has a slightly different aspect, and encouraging everybody to be part of that is been huge for me over the last 4 or 5 years.
How important would you say is that more consultative element of sales? Does it depend on what you're selling? Like, how important is it for the person doing the selling to get out there, build that relationship, and really understand the individual customer that they're selling to?
Critical. I think, those salespeople or those people that engage with customers and really take the time to understand the businesses, the challenges, the processes, all of the issues that business has, they're going to be the ones who come up with the solution that's most appropriate and take that customer forward. One of our core values, our number one core value, is about trust and building trust with the customer. Because we're a SaaS model, we know that we're entrusted with our customers' most sensitive data, and looking after that is absolutely key. So the relationships that all of our people form, be they sales or non-sales with the customer, is absolutely critical. And taking that time to understand where the customer's going is so important.